Good morning. That was very loud. I apologize. How are you going to bring all those verses together? You have to do that in 20 minutes, but my goodness. So, okay, today's theme is about helpfulness, correct? Well, let me tell you of a moment that I had with my dad when I was about 13 or 14. Because often my dad would go into our front yard growing up and work on our cars. And he would often say to me, "John, come and help me." I'm sure some of you know what that experience is like. But I would often be caught off guard. And so I would go out, and in the dark, I would have to hold the hood of the car up in the winter with my hands bare against the hood of the car, which was cold, and hold a flashlight in my mouth in order to be, quote unquote, helpful to Dad as he would just check the dipstick. Now, for you young folk, a dipstick is not an insult. A dipstick is the part of the engine, right? It's actually what you use to measure the engine oil. If the level gets low, you have to add some into it. And I just remember holding the hood of the car up, maybe January, angry that my hands were getting cold, being helpful, holding a flashlight in my mouth, wondering if I was the dipstick in the moment. Okay. But at a certain point, my dad took his hands and he held up the hood of the car instead. And he took the flashlight, and smartly enough, he held the hood with one hand and held the flashlight with the other hand. He didn't put it in his mouth. But then he showed me how to check the dipstick. And you reach in, you pull it out, and then you wipe it clean, and then you dip it again so you can make sure the levels are right for the engine. And he taught me how to check the engine oil. There are ways of being helpful that are really good, and there are other ways of being helpful that are less good. So in this passage, in 1 Corinthians 15, Paul writes, "Work in such a way that your work is not empty in the Lord." And let's be honest, there are ways that you can be helpful that's empty, and there are other ways you can be helpful that are not so empty. They're full. So maybe you know this quick little proverb: give a man to fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Well, we have to make sure that as we work, we're working in ways that are actually helpful towards one another. But don't just make us into being the types of Christians that always rush in to save the day for other people. So for you young folk, what's really wonderful about you guys is you have fresh eyes to see the world. And often, you are still doing the same question that 3-year-olds do, which 3-year-olds run around, they ask why? Why this? Why that? Why that other thing? Why over there? And sometimes us adults, we just get used to the world. But you still ask the question, why are there homeless? Why is there teen depression? Why are there poor people in a first world nation? So one of the things that I think is really profound, when we come to church, we try to do this thing called discipleship. And discipleship is far, far more than just do what Jesus would do. If you ask me, telling you what Jesus would do in today's world isn't exactly, it doesn't quite have the mojo. To me, that feels a little bit like holding the hood up of the car. To me, that sounds a little bit like give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. To me, discipleship has so much more to do. The way it's helpful is by helping us to think like Jesus, not just telling you how to act like Jesus. Because we all have to ask the question, what does it look like to leave this building and learn to think about the homeless like Jesus would? To think about the homeless in ways that are actually, how can we actually help the problem here? It's wonderful to give sandwiches to the homeless. It's wonderful to sit down and talk with one another about teen depression. It's another thing, like I said, to ask why? 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 So in these passages, which it will be fascinating to hear Steve wrap all three of these New Testament verses together, the work of the Lord is really fascinating because of one preposition, and then we're done. I'm done with my little spiel. It says, work so that your work will not be in vain in the Lord, not for the Lord. Because I think that there's something profound. We need to realize we're not just here to do things for God. We're here to do things for other people in the name of God. To be here as representatives of Jesus, who think like Jesus, so that we can all go and act like Jesus on our own accord, according to our own conscience. So you young folk, let's wrap this up. Keep asking the why question. That's how your generation are uniquely helpful. Because some of you, most of you, are not trapped in cynicism yet about the world. Keep a freshness. Keep a hopefulness. Keep asking why, because the whys will show you how to be truly helpful in the name of the Lord. You are wonderful. Grace and peace to all of you.